Welcome to The Fitterist Show with your host, Christopher Allen, where we explore the art of mind and body conditioning. Welcome to episode number 2 of The Fitterist Show. In this episode, I want to share my fitness journey with you to give you A, context into my perspective, and B, highlight how some of the behaviors, habits, and events both in and out of our control, can shape one's success. So, with that, let's go way back to my childhood. And my first love was baseball. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. I played baseball, I watched baseball, I analyzed baseball, I calculated baseball statistics, I played tabletop baseball strategy games, I played wiffle ball in neighborhood backyards. I loved baseball. And in my 9-year-old brain at the time, I had it all mapped out. Baseball in high school, then college, work through the minor leagues, and then of course pitching for my beloved Cincinnati Reds and revive the Big Red Machine sometime in the future. And of course, again, to a 9-year-old brain, it seemed pretty simple and had it laid out in my imaginative young mind. I pitched in Little League, but I was not really a great athlete. And in Little League, I was primarily a pitcher. And I loved pitching, and I was excited to play baseball in high school. And I excitedly went to tryouts for baseball team, looking forward to continuing my passion, mapping along my 9-year-old plan. And when the coach posted the names of the people on the team, my name wasn't on the list. I got cut. I was crushed. This is the first time I was essentially told I really wasn't good enough in something that I was truly passionate about. You know, looking back in hindsight, truth be told, while I was probably okay, good pitcher, I didn't really have the strength or stamina to blow up by guys. My mechanics were okay, but it was a little bit of a wake-up call for me. I come from a family that's, how should I say, not overly blessed with the athletic gene. My father served in World War II, but didn't really have any sports or hobbies aside from occasionally I remember him playing. He did teach me ping pong, so I'm okay at that. And my mom was lean and had a fast metabolism, but not really athletic. And all of my older siblings didn't really play any sports that I remember throughout high school. So a little bit as a result of that, and compounded with the fact that my parents were heavy proponents of education. And my mom was a former school teacher, and focusing on academics and intellectual expansion was pretty much mandatory in a good way in our household growing up. It was always stay hungry to learn. And, you know, I did excel in academics and continued to learn. While I was blessed to inherit my mother's metabolism, I was the proverbial skinny kid. When I graduated high school, I was 6'1" and weighed probably about $150. Just to give you a little bit of context into body types, there are 3 major body types. There's ectomorphic, which is lean, long, difficulty building muscle. Endomorph, which is larger, higher body fat with a high tendency to store body fat. And the third is mesomorph, which is generally more muscular, well-built, generally higher metabolism and responsive muscle cells. So clearly, I was in the ectomorph camp. And if you go to fitterist.com, I've posted a few snapshot pictures of my physical fitness journey from roughly age 17 to age 50. So you can see the very ectomorphic 17-year-old. I was lean, but super skinny. And when I got into college, I started lifting some weights and a bit more of a structured routine. And I had a pretty consistent training partner in college, my friend Mark, that provided added incentive to keep showing up. The weight room in our dorm was basically a converted closet on the 12th floor. There were no windows. There's one door, a couple of benches, some free weights, very basic, very bare bones. No machines, no cardio equipment, no step mills, no Peloton, super bare bones. And the university, had a student athletic facility, but it was all the way on the other side of campus. So I went there occasionally, but for the most part, I trained in the closet. And I was also fortunate to meet a few people to give me pointers because I kind of knew what I was doing, but people that gave me pointers in the right direction. And I kept reading, I kept learning by watching others, which, by the way, has its own pros and cons. Some people have been working out for a long time and don't do a lot of exercises very optimally, don't know what they're doing, and some do. But I still, at this point, I rarely did any cardiovascular exercise. I was still kind of the lean, skinny kid trying desperately to add a little bit of muscle. And I would read Muscle and Fitness every month. I'd glean training tips and researching the ever-present supplement of the month that would help build muscle and get you ripped. Yeah, that's the marketing tactics of the 1990s. And I would also mimic many of the workouts and the workout splits, workout routines offered by the professionals and the editors of the magazine, which at a minimum forced me to mix up my workouts and try different new routines, new exercises. And the other leg of the stool, so the weight training was pretty consistent. I really wasn't eating properly. I would gorge at the dining hall meal feedings 3 times a day and ate even more food after hours. And that wasn't always necessarily good food. Granted, you're a college kid, you have a good metabolism, but eating pizzas and drinking Mountain Dew, which was a frequent staple of late night meals, probably not optimal. Just guessing there. But I did manage to gain a little muscle and some fat probably during my 4 years at university. And when I graduated, I was still 6'1" and probably around 175 pounds. So some progress, but still haven't mastered putting all the legs of the stool. I was doing some training, sleeping like a college kid sleeps, and not really eating optimally. And adding another year when I got my master's degree in electrical engineering was pretty much the same routine. Still consistent with the weights, still eating a lot of cafeteria, dorm food, still a struggling student, eating ramen noodles and things of that nature as well, but making progress. And after I graduated and got my first job, I found myself in a position where I traveled domestically quite a bit, and for the first time faced the challenge of eating, training, working out while on the road. So the typical scenario is that I would work for 3 to 4 months in a single city, effectively living there about 90% of the time on a specific project. The company would rent me a fully furnished apartment, and I'd fly back home to my base apartment in Ohio every, month or so for a long weekend. And once that project was completed, I would fly back to Ohio and live there for a month before my next 3 or 4 month assignment. So to stay on point as best I could with diet and training while on this travel, I did a few things. I would join a local gym. Even though the apartment complex often had a pretty decent fitness center, and yes, there's extra cost here, but for me, I found it worth it to negotiate a short-term gym membership because it provided me focus. When I went to the gym, that's when I worked out. When there's always the danger of when you work out at home, having the discipline to split those out consistently. So I would join a local gym. Second thing I would do is I continue to buy and cook food for myself just as if I were at home. I'd prepare meals on Sunday, take those apportioned meals to work each day. The third thing I did is really try to stay on a schedule. And I went from work to the gym, again, avoiding stopping back at the apartment where the distractions could easily surface. And then the fourth thing I did is I did take advantage of the apartment fitness complex just at this point, I started to do some cardio sessions and just quick workouts for a change of scenery. And I did this for about 2 years, traveling all around the country until I made the move to the West Coast and moved to San Diego, California. And when I moved to San Diego in Southern California is when, in my opinion, I really started to get more serious about my overall health and fitness. Really dialing in, learning more about diet, training, really doing cardio. And part of the motivation was just living in America's fittest city, where seemingly everybody was in good shape and taking advantage of the outdoor activities available year-round. So 3 things I did when I was at San Diego. I joined Gold's Gym in Pacific Beach and later Gold's Gym in Escondido to, again, have that place to work out. I continued prepping my food on Sundays and packing food to take to work. And I started mixing in protein bars and shakes to aid with protein consumption throughout the day when I was just busy. And after probably 3 or 4 years of following that routine, I really then decided to enter my first amateur bodybuilding show. And my goal at the time was simply to be in the best shape of my life. And I was fortunate to be surrounded by some great people who supported me, yet remained really pragmatic about the whole competition thing. It's a very, very subjective sport. It's a bizarre kind of sport. And so I never really got caught up in the whole competition aspect all that much. But the process of dieting down, entering a bodybuilding show was fascinating, educational, and very demanding. So cardio twice a day, super strict diet for 12 weeks. And that was based on a pretty lean structure to begin with. Drinking 1 to 2 gallons of water per day, tanning, posing practice, all that just took a toll on time. And at this time, I was still working full-time in software product management. I was also getting my MBA at night, still trying to have a semblance of a social life. Okay, that one really was pretty much non-existent. But oddly enough, these added responsibilities and these time commitments actually honed my discipline and my time management skills. I didn't have any time to waste. I found a routine. I had to squeeze stuff in. I had to wake up early. I had to get to the gym, train on an empty stomach. All of those things that allowed me, or should I say forced me, to be more productive in managing all the demands on my time. So the most valuable things that I gained from entering a bodybuilding competition are the following. 1, I learned that I could push my body further than I thought I could. When you're training in a carb depleted state and you're trying to push your body and do cardio and practice posing, it is both a physical and actually much more a mental game. 2, I had a better understanding of how my body responds to different combinations of food, what worked well with my digestive system, how I could increase fullness, how I could continue to exercise on low carbohydrate days, etc. And finally, the third thing I learned is, the economics of bodybuilding. You pay like $100 at the time, $100 entry fee for the possibility of winning something like a $12 trophy. So obviously you don't compete for the money. So understanding your why is important here, and having fun and learning through the process. So for me, it was just to be in the best shape of my life. I think, as I mentioned, the highest I ever placed in an amateur bodybuilding show was 3rd. That was never a setback. It was never a disappointment. I looked at myself and said, I'm in the best shape of my life. I win. So while doing a bodybuilding show was definitely an interesting and learning and great experience, I continue to use many of the same principles that I learned in discipline throughout my life to balance health and fitness with some amazing career opportunities, the time management and things like that came into play. And at times, look, I made a conscious decision to have fitness take a back seat in my career, and it was absolutely the right thing to do. I still made it to the gym for the most part, ate well, but my mental focus and drive was directed primarily at my executive position with some of the amazing companies. And in my mind, though, I'd kind of fallen off a little bit of the fitness bandwagon, and that didn't last like a month, didn't last like a couple months. It lasted for probably a couple of years, in honesty. If you go to fitters.com and check out the third picture from the left, you can see what I call kind of a fluffy version of myself, where it was during that multi-year period where, look, I had a lot of dinners out, a lot of cocktails, long nights, and weekends working, where my primary focus wasn't on fitness. And that's okay. People wander off the path sometimes. And again, it's okay. You just need to remember where the path is so you can work your way back to it. And gradually, I dialed into a healthier work-life balance and have pretty much maintained a good balance that works for me. It still takes work, still takes discipline, time management, but it actually gets easier as you learn more about your body, as you learn more about nutrition, as you get more consistent with your workouts and you understand how your body responds to various foods. And my progress was commensurate with my focus. You get results on where you focus your efforts. So that is my high-level journey of what propelled me into fitness, and more importantly, what has fueled the healthy fitness drive over a prolonged, we're talking decades here, over a prolonged period of time. There's lots more detail to dive into, but know that it's doable. Even if you're busy, even if you have a less than ideal body type to start with, the key is to just start your journey. I think there are 6 key takeaways from this episode. 1, everyone starts somewhere. You might not be the most genetically blessed, but you've got to start the journey at some point. 2, setbacks and failure is just part of the process. Sometimes it's even a silver lining. But know that hard work and consistency can overcome less than ideal genetics or situational parameters. 3, preparation, particularly food, nutrition, and focus, are extremely key to being successful. 4, time management, the prioritization of what you choose to do makes a huge difference. Knowing that you've allocated time gives you stress relief, gives you peace of mind knowing that there is dedicated time for you to focus on improving different areas of your life. 5, it's an ongoing process. There's really no overnight success. Learning opportunities surround us daily. I'm still learning about how my body responds to different foods because my metabolism and my body changes over time as well. It's never stop learning, never stop doing. And 6, realize that the only competition is in the mirror. The question is, can you be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday? You gotta fall in love with the process of getting better. That is what's important to making a lasting change. Thank you for taking the time to listen to The Fitterist Show, and I hope there's useful information for you here. As always, send us any comments, questions, thoughts, ideas that you have via the website at www.fitterist.com, or you can send us an email anytime to questions@fitterist.com. Love to hear your ideas. My name's Christopher Allen, and make it a magical day.